Hi, this is Elaine Hamilton Grundy, and today I'd like to talk about. I've been getting so many downloads and insights, and I'm just trying to put it into a coherent kind of package for you. And today I'd really like to talk about the age of vibration. It's a little bit of a history lesson, trying to tie in some kind of different themes and threads that are coming through, particularly for this whole 2020. We're now moving into the final quarter. And so it's quite important that we start to understand some of these shifts that are happening and kind of how we're holding space in this. So basically, at the beginning of this year, in January 12th, there was a conjoining of Saturn, Pluto in the sign of Capricorn. Now, I'm no expert in this at all. I'm going to state that right up. But it's been written about a lot by other people who are experts in this. The key thing I want to bring out today is that the last time this happened was 400 years ago. So it was around the time of the Reformation. And for those of you who are not history buffs, we're going to just take some of the key themes because it's really, really relevant. Now, this kind of pattern or alliance that we saw coming into our system basically represents governments, it represents societies, systems, organizations, things like this. And it also creates a kind of intense duality. So you've got the conservatism of the structures that are the old paradigm, those that are already in existence and they're fighting for their lives. This is really important to understand that they're ingrained, and in a sense, they have all the power, and they're the ones that are really in resistance. And then you have coming into that as well the rise of leaders, rebels, change makers, because it's a time, we're going into a time of huge shift, huge change. So going back to 1517, so Martin Luther was just he was just like a monk. He wasn't anyone famous, anyone popular. He wasn't anybody really, but he was very devout and he was very connected in with his own truth and his faith. So obviously in where he was in Germany, and in that time it was the Roman Catholic Church had a really powerful hold on everything. And to put things in perspective, this is the Roman Catholic Church since the time of Jesus. So it's been around for 1500 years. It's there, and it's in every single aspect of life. And what happened in Martin Luther's journey is he did rise. He was very devout. He was very dedicated to his faith, and he rose through the ranks. And in the end, he did end up going to Rome, and he was very kind of shocked by what he saw. And what he began to see was the abuse of power, the corruption in the church, and the way that humanity, the leaders, had actually shifted what he held very dear into a money-making scheme. So in the end, what kind of threw him over the top was the sale of indulgences. Now, it's kind of interesting if you think about what's going on now in our government structures and the abuses of power and just kind of what's happening around you. So what Martin Luther saw was that the church was starting to sell, basically saying, okay, if you give us money and if you give us funds, then we have the power to mitigate your sins. So literally, kind of like good deeds and merit, you can pay for them, you can buy them. Lots and lots of kind of things that I can see now in our society. I'm sure you can see as well. There's like, oh my God, it's all just history repeating itself, right? So he then began a movement. Now, the movement began in 1517, but didn't really gather momentum for many years. And so I'm not going to go into all the history of it. Please, if you're interested, do read about it. There's so much interesting kind of parallels that are happening now. But essentially, the perspective that I want you to get is that there were certain key things to this. So first of all, for him, he really believed that if you have the right faith, and now he was talking particularly about the scriptures, but there are many parallels. Like if you really have the right authentic space, like if you're really in your own truth, then you should be allowed to interpret that however you see fit. That was his whole tenet. His whole thing was we should be coming into God as a personal, intimate journey, and not something that we're just buying or something that we're just kind of being told by somebody else what to do in order to get into heaven, right? So that was his whole thing. And it caught not only the imagination, but also the spirit of the time. And remember, there's all this planetary alignment happening, okay? So it's everybody is really highlighting the governments, the systems, that what's working, what's not working. So there's this whole kind of boiling point that's happening. And then within that, there is also like the peasant riots that happened several years after that, because it was an opportunity for social reform. Now, Luther didn't actually agree with the peasant riots, but so it grew much, much bigger than him. But he kind of kick-started the whole thing. So this idea that there's also a timing behind it. So we're kick-starting something in 2020, but honestly, it's an evolutionary thing. So I put down these dates here for you to see. This is decades in the making. Right, and then eventually the UK, England split from Rome in 1534, and then the internal struggles that the UK had to try and kind of come to terms with this massive split in ideology that happened around the religion, then created all this dissatisfaction that actually led the pilgrims to move to America. And so, like 100 years after this, you've got the beginnings of America. So there's this avalanche of events that are triggered by other events. Now, the other thing I want to highlight is around this time, printing started to become a much more available thing. So the reason why the Reformation caught fire was because they could print pamphlets and booklets and disseminate information. Sound familiar, right? So I want to jump to the themes. So the major theme was abuse of power. So you have this religion, and you have the people at the top, the ones in power that who are really kind of corrupting the deep values of what the religion stood for in the first place. And so this was something that just became untenable for people. So like, I just don't want to live in a world like this, okay? So think about what's happening in our world now, where you are feeling that same abusive energy that's coming through. The other thing that's interesting is the leader came from a very unexpected place, right? He was just a monk in a little diocese, it was like, and think about that now. Who is starting to be more vocal? Who around you are you looking at going, okay, I want to give my attention, I want to give my support to these people. And they're not necessarily going to be the ones in the limelight. They're not necessarily going to be the ones with all of the fame or the popularity or even the power. Okay, so this is another theme. Technology. Now, one thing that is very clear for all of us is technology has really carried the day this year. 2020 would have been a very, very different space to have been living in if we didn't have the technology, the internet, our connectivity with others. Also, it is a very powerful way that energy is traveling, information is traveling at the moment through all of the technology that we have. This is a very important parallel kind of happening. Now, the other theme is personal authority, right? So I have the right to interpret the scriptures as I see fit. And the same thing is happening now, right? I have the birthright to interpret my life as I see fit, my values, what I believe in, what I trust in. I have a right to make these decisions myself. Exactly the same theme. So we are at the beginning of a huge transition. And one of the things, so here's the thing, Martin Luther was actually dragged to the courts for what he'd written. And in those days, it was like, basically you write something like that, it's basically treason or blasphemy, and you're hung for it, you're killed for it. And he refused to back down. So he stood his ground. And the reason he stood his ground was not because he was being stubborn. It was because he honestly believed in what he was saying, and he couldn't, in his heart and in his full authenticity, he couldn't back down. So all these themes that are coming through, really important for us to kind of take these and look at what it means for us. Okay. So moving into 2020, Reformation 2020, I'm calling it the age of vibration. And the reason I'm doing that is because it's very clear to me anyway, and to many people that I speak to, that our vibration is now becoming more and more center stage. So depending on what communities you're hooked in with, I know there's a lot of information now about the different planet alignments and the amount of energy coming in and the Schumann resonance and the this and the that. Everything is vibrating at a very different level to even a year ago. And right, if you're even tuning into this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There has been a momentous shift. And it's coming from all directions. So yes, it's coming from the planet alignments, it's coming from the sun energy, it's coming from the Schumann resonance. Most importantly, I feel it's also coming and connecting in with the technology. So like, for example, in Reiki, we send Reiki over distance. We do attunements over distance. We are in the vibrationary field. So we know everything is vibration. And so the critical thing is, one, our vibration matters and it affects the whole, right? So if I'm vibrating at a point of love, abundance, like compassion, gratitude, these vibrations, I'm literally pushing them outwards from myself. So I'm vibrating in it. I'm sitting in that vibration of gratitude that is already present, and I am amplifying it out. Okay, and this has always been the way, but the geography has changed. So before it was like I'm vibrating out and I'm impacting kind of the people around me in my geography, people in my home, people in my neighborhood, maybe people I work with, but not anymore. So now we're connecting in with other groups, other places in the world. If you're getting involved in the online community, even what you post on Facebook has a vibration. And you know already, right? It's like I look at Facebook sometimes and I unfollow people because of their vibration. And then there's other people that I get very attracted to. So my Facebook feed is a really curated kind of lineage of the vibration that I want to see. And I really hope you're doing that too. Like your feed should be completely resonant with where you want to be or where you feel you are most of the time. Don't fill it with crap and don't fill it with low vibration because it makes a difference. So this whole idea is, so technology is amplifying. Also our groups are amplifying. So in terms of where we are right now, okay, so this is what we should be doing in terms of our own contribution. You really need to take care of your vibration. You need to own it. You need to be responsible for it. And you need to bring your attention to those areas in your life that enhance your vibration and work on releasing those in areas of your life that it's just not a good fit. Now, that also means that, I really recommend communities. I run a community, but there are also many communities I'm a member of. because holding space for a community is wonderful, but it's also wonderful to be in a community and let someone else hold the space. And as long as it's vibrating at a vibration that you are in allegiance with, this is really important. And so that might also mean the painful duty of releasing communities that no longer serve you. And that can be quite tough, but it's super important at the moment that we really need to take responsibility for being the highest vibration we can. And that also means that we're not worrying about others who are not. I mean, at the end of the day, even after the Reformation, there is, the Roman Catholic Church is still the biggest religion on the planet. Did you know that? It's like, in terms of, there's like over 1 billion people that are Roman Catholics. And so it's not as if the Reformation smashed the power to pieces. Not at all. But it did reform it. It did change it. It did make it more accountable. And at the end of the day, this is what you're going to see here now over your lifetime. We're talking hundreds of years of transformation, okay? So this whole beginning of our age of vibration is happening now, but it's going to unfold over like hundreds of years. So right now, right here, your contribution is to stand your ground. What vibration are you putting out in the world? What vibration do you want to be putting out in the world? And then take responsibility for that. Find the communities that are doing the same thing, amplify with them, because there is a very powerful resonance. 1 + 1 is 3. If you have that kind of synergy, that's just the way it goes. We square root our energy. Okay, the other thing, sorry. So we amplify it. In terms of your focus and attention, it's on the here and now. So it's very easy to also get sucked into like the conspiracy theories and get sucked into, why aren't things changing faster? Why aren't things changing now? But essentially, if you're holding your vibration and you are amplifying it and you are exploring this new kind of cutting edge vibrationary frequency that we have access to, then you're really honestly not going to care what everyone else is doing. So you hold your ground and you come into resonance of what you want to do with your life, and the rest of it is irrelevant. Some people will follow you, some people won't follow you. You'll find the communities and groups that you need to be involved with, and that's all you need to concern with yourself with now. Right, I've been ranting for quite a while. I apologize if this has been all this information literally landed on me this morning in my meditation, and I'm like, okay, I better just spew it out to you guys before I forget it. So I hope that's been of some help, and I hope to see you in our community sometime in the future, and obviously in my monthly Reiju communities that I run that's totally free. Please come and join, see what we're doing, and take great care of yourself.